Welcome to my channel. Here I am, God, where I discuss many topics from my supernatural experiences all the way to my spiritual journey towards Christ, which has been a recent one. Today, I feel that God has been asking me to relay some of the stories about my childhood growing up in a haunted house in Chicago. And by sharing this with you, I'm hoping to shed light on the fact that good and evil do truly exist, and we interact with these forces every day. It's our job and our place to make sure we're aware of what we're seeing and experiencing. And so, with that being said, let's get started. So, I did grow up in Chicago in a neighborhood around the Jefferson Park area, if you're familiar with that area. So, it's the city of Chicago, not a suburb. When I was a kid, probably about 5 years old, I had my first experience. So I remember sleeping with my cousin in the living room, and we were looking down the hall towards the kitchen, and this glittery, glowing shape of a person was there, just standing in the hall. And we both saw it, and we both said, "Oh!" At the same time, we both said, "Oh my God, what is that?" And it just disappeared. So I don't know if that was a good spirit or a bad spirit. My instinct tells me it was a good one. It's the first time I have any memory of anything truly supernatural in that house. I don't know that that was truly the start of my experiences there, though. I think the biggest one started happening when I got a little bit older. So as I've said in other videos, when I was a littler kid, I was very religious. We were raised Catholic, and I went to Catholic school, and we did church every Sunday, and I really felt very connected to Christianity and Jesus and Catholicism at that time. So I had made this big crucifix, a ceramic crucifix that I had painted myself, and had the store on Milwaukee Avenue fire it up for me, and I brought it home, and it was I was really, really proud of it, and I got made fun of really bad by my family for being too overly religious. So I was a little embarrassed of it, but I was very, I was very stubborn. I wasn't going to let it go. So at that time, my bedroom was in the attic, and it was a refinished attic, but it was still pretty attic-y. So I was already kind of nervous to be up there by myself. But my big sister had her bedroom like on the other side of the attic. So I take my big honking cross, and I hang it in my bedroom right above my bed. And I had that there for a long, long time, and I loved it, and it made me feel safe. It brought me comfort. Sometime forward, I'm really not entirely sure, I had a sleepover with some of my girlfriends, and we had a Ouija board, which now I know is a mistake, but at the time I didn't. I was just a kid, and my mom was the one who encouraged that behavior. Unfortunately, she didn't know either, I don't think. But I do believe this is the experience that truly opened up the doors to demonic happenings in my home at that time. So we're maybe 10 or 11. We're in my attic bedroom, and we have the Ouija board. I've got my big cross on the wall, and I've got a smaller cross on the other wall from my first communion my sister-in-law gave to me. I've got all sorts of religious art on the walls, right? So I've got stuff hanging is the point. We have this seance with the Ouija board, and we're giggling and trying to contact the other world and see if there's a spirit in the house. And, obviously nothing really happened, but at some point during this experience, my big crucifix fell off that wall and landed, boom, with a big thud on my bed. And at the same time, I think, at least the way I remember it, at the same time, the other cross also fell off the wall, and it was in a different part of that room. So of course we're screaming, and we're running downstairs for my mom, and my mom was like, "Don't worry about it. It's an old house, because the house is built in 1920 something. It's just settling. Just don't worry about it." And I'm sure the rest of the night went without a hitch. We probably watched scary movies, did whatever, and went to bed. But I think from then on, I started experiencing really terrifying things in that bedroom. I got to the point I was so afraid to go up to my room. I wouldn't be in that part of the house alone, absolutely ever. My sister, if she's 8 years older than me, so she would go out with her friends or her boyfriend, and I would wait for her to come home before I would go to bed. I absolutely would not go in there. It terrified me. But some of the experiences that I had, in not chronological order, I can't remember what order they happened, But one of the things that would happen was that around 10 o'clock at night, like at the same time every single night, I would hear scratching behind the wall. So it'd be like loud, right? So, and it would go on, and I would get up out of bed, run into my sister's room, tell her to come in, and she would hear it too, and we'd be like, it's she calmed me down. She told me it's probably a mouse behind the wall. Don't worry about it. Just get some sleep. And eventually the noise would quiet down. And then the next night, 10 o'clock, in the same spot, and it was behind my bed where I had my crucifix hanging. I would run into my sister's room, bring her back, and she'd be like, don't worry about it, it's fine, it's probably just a mouse. So, that went on for a while until I kind of got used to it and expected it. So I couldn't explain the timing and I couldn't explain the noise, but I did accept that it was happening, and it no longer frightened me. I don't know if it was over the course of weeks or months or how long, but after I came to terms with it, that noise would start happening at the same time in multiple places in my room. So it would be in that same spot behind my bed, but it'd also be on the other side of the room, and they would be going on simultaneously. And then there would be a noise coming from my dresser drawer also. Again, I went to my parents, I went to my sister. My dad eventually did tear down the walls of that bedroom to look to see what was behind there, and there was nothing there. There was no evidence of rodents at all. There was no poop. There was no dead animals. There was nothing happening back there. No evidence that anything had snuck into the house. Like, nothing was there. There was no reason that should have been happening. That went on the entire time that I had my bedroom upstairs. Other things that would happen. Like, I remember one specific event where I was sleeping in my bed, and my sister was in charge of coming to get me in the morning to go to school. So every morning she'd come up and she'd be like, Lauren, it's time to wake up. And we would argue. I'd be like, I'm not ready. I don't want to wake up. And she'd yell at me, and then she'd go back downstairs. And a couple minutes later, she'd come back up screeching at me, it's time to wake up. But this one particular morning, somebody sat on the edge of my bed, and I remember the bed kind of like sinking down. And I assumed it was my mom because she didn't screech, it's time to wake up. So I was like, oh, this is somebody who's nicer. So my bed kind of sinks down. Somebody put their hand on my hip here and said, come on, sweetie, it's time to wake up now. And I was like, okay, I'll be down in a minute. And then I went back to sleep. I think I was like 13. I went back to sleep. A couple minutes later, my sister's in the room going, Lauren, it's time to wake up. And I remember my reaction being like, I know, I said I'm coming. And she was taken aback because she hadn't been up there yet. And in fact, nobody had been up in my room yet at that point. But that was real as day to me. And so I booked it back downstairs, and I don't know what happened then. Another experience would be that if I had to go, because we only had one bathroom in the house, a very old house, and my bedroom was in the attic, and the bathroom was on the first floor. So if you get up in the middle of the night and you got to go to the bathroom, you'd have to go down the stairs, right? And every time I'd have to get up to go to the bathroom, I would have this like vision in my head that someone was following me down the stairs, right? Like it gives me chills just thinking about it. But I would have this picture of like a being following me down the stairs. And I know that your imagination gets wild when you're a kid, and sometimes you think you see things or you think you feel things that just aren't there. Maybe I had watched scary movies or something at that point, but I believe that I was like, my soul was sensing that there was something evil in there, and it was following me, and it would follow me back up the stairs also, but it never came down all the way to the first floor. It stayed in that room, for like that area, the attic area of the house. Another crazy thing that happened was I had all these little bottles of nail polishes on this cute little shelf my mom had made me on the wall, and at some point during the day, like all of the bottles of nail polish had exploded, and so there were like different colored reds and purples and stuff, just nail polish dripping down the wall. So when I first came into the room, it looked like somebody had been shot. It looked like there was blood all over the walls because the nail polish was just dripping, and it was all dried, and I never did like get all of that off the wall. My mom couldn't explain it. No one explained it. But as a kid, your family's always like, don't worry about it. It's nothing to be worried about. Just, it's normal stuff. There was nothing normal about that. There's no way that several bottles of nail polishes would have all broken. Not only broken, they exploded. to the point that there was just nail polish all over everything. There's no explanation for that to this day. I stand by. I think that was part of the haunting. Um, so that was a lot of the stuff that happened in my bedroom and in the upstairs area. There's a ton more I just can't think of right off the top of my head. And there's other things that happened in the house that were on the first floor. We would have a shadow figure that my whole family has seen, including my parents. My brother, my sister, my whole family has had experiences with the shadow figure on the first floor. There were experiences in the basement, although less in the basement, surprisingly, but tons in the attic. I still have nightmares about my bedroom and the feeling of horror that I had living in that area of the house. And to the point that if I think about it to this day, if I ever got a chance to go back home to my old house, I would not want to go up there. I just wouldn't want to. I wonder if the people who live there now have experiences. I've always been curious about that. But eventually I did trade bedrooms with my parents, and I came down to the first floor and had, the main bedroom of the house, and my parents took that upstairs bedroom. And even though I don't think that they would admit it, things happened while they were up there also. So my mom had a big, beautiful stained glass framed mirror that she had made, and it was hanging on their dresser, and that fell off while the whole family was in the living room watching TV one day, and this big clatter at like 8 o'clock at night. Out of nowhere, nothing in the house was shaking or bumping, but that mirror fell off the wall and shattered everywhere, and there was glass all over the place. The radiator in that bedroom exploded, fell through the ceiling, like major damage my parents had to deal with. So many things happened that I think were chalked up to demonic behavior. So my theory on this is that when I was that little kid having a sleepover with my friends, and we did that Ouija board, we opened up the door to demons infesting that house and ultimately infesting me for the rest of my life. I think I've carried them with me. I think they're still here. I do. I think that they're still here, but I've done a fairly good job of keeping them at bay. I pray all the time now. All the time. Every night I make sure I pray so that they're not bothering my children. But I'm not going to get into that. Back on track, Lauren. So, yeah, I think that what happened was we had that seance. We opened up a door to the demonic to come into my house. And my actions are responsible for that house being... some kind of portal or home for demonic energy to come through, and we never did close it. So that probably is still a problem now, as far as I know. I'm not really sure. So that's a bit of that. I feel like God is calling me to share these experiences with you in hopes to guide more people to the light. I think that if we're aware that demons do exist, angels do exist, God is real, Jesus is real, Christianity is the way to the light. And I think it's my role to share these things with you, to bring you in so you can believe. You just hear it from somebody like me. I'm just a regular lady. I'm 42 years old. I don't have a reason to lie to you. I'm not making money. I'm just telling you my life, right? So on that note, help me spread the news. I think I'm going to use this channel to pray, to tell you my life experiences, to shed good word where I find it, to, do everything I can to bring more people to God. So like my video, share my video, comment on my video, do all the things that you have to do to get the news out, to get me more involved in YouTube so I can reach more people. Leave me a comment if you have suggestions on how I can do this better, or topics I can talk about, or if you want me to elaborate on anything that I word vomit in these stories. Please do that. Let me know. And praise God. Amen. And have a great day. Bye.